When I delivered Remy and Gertie to the Champaign County Humane Society following an animal cruelty investigation, it comforted me to know that they would be in the hands of such skilled and compassionate staff and volunteers. I think many people, upon seeing the two dogs today so happy and healthy, would be surprised to hear of their story. I first met Remy and Gertie during a routine animal cruelty investigation. I was called to a residence to check on the welfare of some dogs that were living in substandard conditions. One thing I have to look for as a humane investigator is appropriate shelter. And I've seen many things passed off as shelters over the years, but this is the first time that I had seen the front end of a junked out car being used as a doghouse. Unfortunately, animal cruelty investigators and officers meet many dogs like Remy and Gertie. They're what we call resident dogs. And resident dogs, although they can be given the minimum required food, water, shelter, oftentimes what they're denied the most is regular, positive human contact that dogs thrive on so much. Faced with multiple violations, Remy and Gertie's owners decided to relinquish them to the Champaign County Humane Society. I had to carry the dogs into the shelter, and I remember them specifically trembling in my arms, just so scared. The volunteers at the animal shelter took it upon themselves to work with Remy and Gertie and get them to a point where they were comfortable enough to go up for adoption. They would get the two dogs on their leashes, and Remy was a little bit more confident so they could walk her a few steps ahead. And then Gertie, faced with either being left behind or following her mother, would of course choose to follow. And the two dogs would do what I call an army crawl down the hallway and then eventually out the door into the yard. And we'd repeat this process multiple times a day, every day, until the dogs were totally comfortable and it looked like they'd been taken out for walks their entire life. As the dogs were becoming more comfortable in the animal shelter, then it was time to evaluate their health. And that's when our staff veterinarian, Dr. Whedon, took a look at them.
Gertie and Remy came to us with intestinal parasites that could have been potentially life-threatening: coccidia, hookworms, and whipworms. By themselves, they can be serious. Together, they can be so debilitating that the animals can die from them. You know, the medical staff here at Champaign County Humane Society are the ones responsible for Gertie and Remy's care. They treated them for their intestinal parasites. They treated the fly bites on their ears. They rehabilitated them and gave them the care that they deserved and needed.
As the dogs became more and more comfortable at the shelter, our volunteers continued to work with them, getting them exposed to things that they'd never been exposed to before, like going out for walks or playing with toys or just the regular fun outdoor time that dogs so much enjoy. And each day they got a little bit better, and eventually they were actually able to go up for adoption and meet potential families.
I had reached the point where I really was anxious to get another dog, and I had planned, of course, to adopt one. And went on the Humane Society website, and looking at the various dogs, these two just looked charming. I would not have adopted just one. I adopted these two because I wanted to make sure that they got adopted together. I mean, how can you not love them? They are just so precious and so cute. They're just such good companions, and just very joyful.
For every story like Remy and Gertie's, there are hundreds of others that don't get told. And unfortunately, sometimes those stories don't have such happy endings. But Remy and Gertie were very lucky to have arrived at the Champaign County Humane Society, where we're trusted by our community and our donors to do what's right and to look at the animals as individuals, worthy of our respect and our compassion and a second chance. Thanks to the hard work of our staff and volunteers, as well as the generosity of our community, we're able to every day serve animals like Remy and Gertie, finding them the homes that they deserve.